I welcome you to the most trickiest piece on the chessboard, the knight. Sitting majestically in the center of the board, the knight is the trickiest piece because, first of all, it moves a very peculiar it moves in a very peculiar pattern, which is L shape, and secondly, it has the very unique ability to jump over its own and opponent's pieces. So, at the outset, let us look at the movement of the knight, how to learn the movement of the knight. I will also share a few methods in which you can train yourself to become proficient in the movements of the knight. So, let us start with looking at the initial movement. So, the knight basically moves in a L shape. So, it is sitting on e4. So let us say we count this square as 1. It goes one step straight and then one step slanting to the side. So 1, 2, 2.5, 2.5 squares. That is the movement of the knight. And second peculiar thing about the knight movement is that the knight always moves to the other color. If it starts from white, it will always go to a dark square. If it starts from a dark square, it will always go to a white square. And this movement, this L-shaped movement, can be replicated in all directions. So the knight can choose to go down 1, 2, and 2.5. So this would be the square where it is landing. I'll highlight only the squares where the knight is finally going, and I'll show the arrows. It can go here, one step up, one to the side, one step sideways, and one up along the diagonal, same like this, same like this, and like this. So the highlighted boxes are all the places where the knight can go in its move. So we'll see how it actually looks like. The knight can go here, it can come back again go here, and like that. If you notice closely, what I told earlier is happening. The knight is always changing the colors. So let us say I move it here. It from white started and it is going to a dark square. And now it is going to the white square. And again like this. It is very important to practice the movements of the knight and do the exercises which I'll be suggesting shortly. If you are proficient with the knight, you will make life for the opponent very difficult. Knight is a very difficult piece to play against. It is my personal experience. And people who learn, players who learn to manage their knights well, do go on to become very strong players. They are always very tricky with the knight. So, in this lesson, we learned the movement of the knight, how it moves in L shape, how it can jump over its own and opponent's pieces. We'll look at some examples of that. And how it always changes colors. Let us see what is the next chapter involving the knight. And yes, so here I have put a simple example showing the power of the knight, which we saw earlier also. So knight, when it is in the center, it has access to 8 different squares. And in this example, I have placed 8 black queens, all of which can be captured by the white knight in its turn. So the knight can choose to go like that, one straight, one to the side, 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 and making the movement 2.5 squares. So it makes quite a fancy pattern, and this is the movement and the possibility of the capture of the knight. This is how the knight captures any piece which comes in its 2.5 or L-shaped range can be captured by the knight. Let us go to the next example with the knight. Okay. Hmm. We came to the pawns. Okay. Let me set up something to show how to practice the movement of the knight. I'll show a very simple example, and that will be very helpful in getting proficiency in movement of the knight. So I'm just putting a few opponent's pawn here and there, and we have one knight. And now what I want you to do is take your knight and capture all the pawns. I'll just show an example. So let us say I'm moving the knight here. I cannot capture anything. I'm going there. And then finally I'm going there. And finally I make the first capture. Okay. I want you to go around the board and capture all the pawns, which you can place randomly. So see how we are doing this. And the knight is going around all over the board in its unique L-shaped movement and capturing all the pawns. Okay. See, interesting. So this is a very simple example which I suggest you do on a real chessboard. If you don't have one, get it. It will always be very helpful to develop a feel of how the pieces move. You can set up any position similar to this and then move the knight to go over and capture all the opponent's pieces like we did in this example. Okay, interesting. And once you do it a few times, I'm sure you'll find the movements of the knight very interesting and very easy to follow. Okay, so with this, we conclude the chapter of movements of the knight. We'll go to the next lesson in which we'll get introduced to the pawns.